The Galactic Empire had stood for millennia, unchallenged and supreme. A civilization of thousands of species ruled by an ancient order of conquest, spectacle, and blood. Among their most cherished traditions was the Blood Arena, a crucible of violence where champions from across the stars fought, killed, and died for the amusement of trillions. It was more than entertainment. It was control. It reminded the galaxy who held dominance. Earth had only recently made contact. A backwater planet, still entangled in primitive politics, internal wars, and a laughable reliance on biology over augmentation. When the Empire's emissaries arrived, they found humans crude, emotional, and shockingly aggressive for their level of advancement. Intrigued, they extended an invitation. A test, a joke cloaked in diplomacy. "Send your champion," they said. "Let us see what your kind is made of." The message arrived on Earth with all the arrogance of an empire convinced of its own infallibility. To them, this was not a challenge, it was a message. Know your place. The Blood Arena had consumed entire species before. What hope did Earth have? The world was divided. Some saw it as a death sentence, others as an opportunity. But among the noise, one truth emerged. Refusal would be seen as weakness. Submission. And humanity had never submitted to anyone. The selection process was short. Military leaders, intelligence agencies, and political powers across nations convened. They needed someone who represented more than strength. Not a brawler, a weapon. What they chose was not a soldier, but a specialist. A ghost in the record, shaped by endless conflict and shadows. He had no name worth repeating, no face etched in history. What he had was results. Wars ended when he arrived. Regimes fell. Missions labeled impossible were quietly resolved in his favor. He was briefed in silence. No speeches, no applause. Just a quiet nod as he reviewed alien biology, tactics, footage of past arena matches. He didn't ask questions. He absorbed everything with the cold efficiency of someone who had long divorced emotion from action. His departure was as quiet as his life. A single shuttle, a handful of observers. As he boarded the alien transport, he turned once to look at the sky, not in wonder, but calculation. He wasn't going to make history. He was going to make a point. The alien vessel was unlike anything built by human hands. Sleek, alive almost, it hummed with energy as it pierced the void. The crew avoided him, uncertain whether to view him with amusement or caution. He gave them no reason to decide. Inside his cell, though they called it a guest chamber, he trained. No weights, no simulation gear, just his body and memory. He replayed footage of past champions in his mind, noting patterns, overextensions, wasteful bravado. He practiced killing them without ever meeting them. By the time they arrived at the capital world, news of Earth's acceptance had already gone viral across systems. Memes, bets, jokes. The betting markets gave him 30 seconds. No species had ever lasted past their first match without enhancements. The humans, after all, were just flesh. Unmodified. Mortal. As the shuttle descended, he watched the arena through the viewport. It was a mountain-sized coliseum, ancient and repurposed with alien architecture. It radiated power and cruelty. He felt nothing. When they disembarked, a delegation greeted him. Robes, implants, guards. They spoke in flowery tongue, praising Earth's courage. He didn't respond, just walked past them toward the holding compound. The silence unsettled them. It was the first misstep in a carefully scripted humiliation. Inside the prep zone, he was examined. No implants, no armor, no AI interface. Just bone and blood. One technician scoffed. "You're going to die fast," she said. He looked at her once. She didn't speak again. Word spread quickly. Other champions, adorned in mechanical limbs, chitin armor, energy-infused weaponry, came to inspect the human. Some laughed. Others sneered. He studied them all, movements, voices, nerves. Weakness wasn't in strength. It was in predictability. Back on Earth, news anchors speculated endlessly. Was this brave or suicidal? Was this man even human anymore? But among military channels, there was a quiet confidence. He wasn't sent to win applause. He was sent to remind the galaxy that Earth was not to be trifled with. The night before his first fight, the Empire broadcast a welcome ceremony. Each champion was introduced with flair, titles, kill counts, planet of origin. When it came time for the human, there was nothing, no fanfare, just his image, standing silent in the prep zone, eyes like steel. The crowd roared with laughter. He didn't react. He was counting exits, mapping shadows, noting structural flaws in the arena design. While they celebrated, he planned. And in the highest tower of the Imperial Palace, the Empress watched him. Her smile was thin. She had seen thousands die in the arena. This one would be no different, she thought. The arena was a monument to savagery wrapped in spectacle. It towered into the clouds, forged from stone, metal, and the bones of long-forgotten beasts. A marvel to the Empire, it was a stage for the strong and a grave for the unworthy. Every world in the Empire knew its name. Every warrior dreamed of entering it. None walked out unchanged. Most never walked out at all. When Earth's warrior entered the arena complex, there was no awe in his eyes. No wonder at the shimmering energy fields or towering statues of past champions. He moved with quiet purpose, footsteps steady, heart rate calm. Where others saw glory, he saw only opportunity and threat. Alien spectators flooded the stands. Millions in person, billions watching live across systems. Beings of every shape and composition gathered to witness the exotic newcomer. Some hovered, some slithered, some sat behind shielding domes. All expected the same outcome: entertainment, followed by dismemberment. The announcers spoke in layered tongues, each phrase tailored to its species. From the primitive sphere of Sol 3, they said, "A bipedal mammal dares challenge the pride of the galaxy." Laughter erupted. Even among killers, mockery was a universal language. Inside the warrior's holding cell, weapons were displayed before him. Traditional blades, plasma whips, kinetic gauntlets, designed for show and fury. He ignored them. Instead, he selected a plain carbon-edged knife and a short steel baton. The attendant raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. No one stopped the dead man from choosing his funeral clothes. From the observation decks above, the Empress observed her guests. Representatives of allied empires dined on exotic meats and offered smug commentary. Many had sent their own champions to the arena before. Few survived beyond a match or two. The humans, they believed, would be no different. The warrior was a message to Earth, not a competitor. They would learn their place. But those who had studied the footage closely, the military strategists, the Black Ops tacticians, noticed something in the human's stance, in the lack of tension in his shoulders, in the way his eyes scanned every entrance, every camera, every shift in airflow. He wasn't just watching. He was collecting. Before the first match, the arena displayed a warm-up event. 2 alien gladiators, veterans of 10 matches each, faced off to the delight of the crowd. They were titans, hulking beasts with armor fused into their flesh and energy crackling along their limbs. Their fight was a ballet of brutality. Limbs shattered, roars echoed, and the ground cracked beneath their blows. The crowd howled in pleasure. The human watched from his cell, not impressed, not intimidated, just attentive. Every move, every hesitation, every mechanical delay was logged and filed away. He didn't need to be stronger. He needed to be faster, smarter, more ruthless. The alien guards escorted him to the staging tunnel as the announcer called his name, or rather, Earth's name. "Sol 3 champion," they cried, "the last breath of humanity." The audience jeered, waving claws and tendrils. Bets shifted wildly. 30 seconds to live. 20 if he hesitated. Across the tunnel, his first opponent stood, a 4-armed brute from the war moons of Jarnak, clad in reactive armor and wielding twin shock axes. It flexed and snarled, saliva dripping from its tusks. The human remained still, unreadable. His opponent saw prey. He saw a delay between its roars and breath. He saw a weak side hidden behind a shoulder plate. As they were led into the arena, lights flared, drums pounded, and the ground vibrated. The human took slow steps, noting the texture beneath his boots, the spacing of walls, the weight of the air. Every detail mattered. The match hadn't even begun, yet tension curled in the crowd. Something felt off. The human didn't posture, didn't acknowledge the spectators. He simply stared forward, eyes cold, body relaxed, like a man walking toward a necessary task. The Empress leaned forward, curious now. No fear, no performance, just silence. It disturbed her more than any war cry. The weapons master reviewed the combatants one final time. No enhancements, no interference, no mercy. The timer began its countdown. 3, 2, 1. The human didn't move. His opponent charged, bellowing, axes high. The human remained motionless until the final moment, then stepped sideways with terrifying precision, ducked under the first swing, parried the second with the baton, and drove the knife under the creature's arm, between armor plates, into lung tissue. 1 second. The brute staggered, wheezing. 2 seconds. The baton struck the side of its knee, buckling the joint. 3 seconds. The knife slid across its throat in a clean arc. 4 seconds. The body fell, silent. The crowd took longer to process the result than the fight had lasted. Confusion, disbelief, then a wave of noise, outrage, cheers, arguments. Bets ruined, narratives shattered. The announcers stammered, scrambling for commentary. This wasn't entertainment. It was execution. The human wiped the blade on the corpse's fur, turned, and walked away. No words, no gestures, just a predator moving on. The second match was not delayed. The Empire needed to restore balance, to remind its citizens that the first fight had been a fluke. They selected 2 opponents this time, a coordinated pair from the martial caste of Selkanar Prime. Symbiotic fighters bred for synchronization and bloodlust. Their neural links allowed them to fight as one. No champion had ever defeated them without augmentation. The human didn't flinch. No concern, no adjustment. When a match began, he didn't charge. He walked, each step measured, unhurried. His eyes never left them. The twins moved like liquid, circling with mirrored blades, attempting to flank. He let them. As one attacked high, the other swept low. They expected him to dodge. Instead, he stepped forward into the attack, close enough to nullify reach, shoving one into the other with a violent twist of his hip. Their blades clanged against each other's armor. In the instant of confusion, he broke the first one's jaw with the baton and crushed the other's throat with the heel of his boot. 7 seconds. 2 bodies. The arena was no longer amused. Confusion curdled into unease. This was not a champion. This was a dismantler, not a soldier, but a methodical destroyer. The Empire's analysts began to study his fights frame by frame. No wasted motion. Every strike ended a threat. He used the arena's structure, the environment, even the rhythm of the crowd. It was all data, all information to weaponize. Behind closed doors, concerns grew. The blood arena was never meant to empower the weak. It was a demonstration of imperial dominance. The human flipped that narrative. For every showy alien bellow or flourish, he replied with silence and precision. No rage, no performance, just efficient, brutal execution. Even when a champion 3 times his size attempted to overwhelm him with raw strength, the human stayed calm, sidestepped, and cut into the knee joint with surgical accuracy. When the beast fell, he drove the blade into the spine and walked away before the body hit the ground. Interviews with other combatants revealed a chilling pattern. They weren't afraid of his strength. They were afraid of how he looked at them, like prey, cold and calculating, without recognition or empathy, as if he'd already accepted death and was simply dragging them along with him. They reported an absence of ego, a complete detachment, and it shook them. The Empress demanded a psychological profile. Empire intelligence scoured Earth's files. What they found alarmed them. The human was selected not for his strength, but for his experience in asymmetric warfare. Jungle kills, urban extractions, silent ship infiltrations. He'd fought without backup, without air support, against augmented foes and won. Repeatedly, he was trained not to entertain or survive, but to end lives before his enemy knew the fight had started. The matches continued. One after another, champions fell. Some fought. Some hesitated. A few tried to surrender mid-combat. He didn't accept. Mercy was not in his vocabulary. Not because he was cruel, but because mercy created survivors. And survivors talked. His mission was deterrence, not sport. The tide turned in the audience. What began as mockery shifted to fascination, then fear. The warrior developed a reputation among the species who had once ruled the arena. They whispered in their own languages, "Ghost, Reaper, the void that watches." Even those who had dominated entire star systems now hesitated when their names were drawn to face him. An elite warrior from the Thorn Collective refused to fight. "I have seen death before," he said, "but I have never seen inevitability walk on two legs." He was executed for cowardice, but others began withdrawing. The Emperor's inner circle grew divided. Some wanted the human eliminated quietly. Others argued it was too late. The galaxy had already seen. In desperation, they sent a biomech abomination, an illegal hybrid banned in most civilized sectors. 12 feet tall, equipped with gravitational distorters and self-repair protocols. It was not a gladiator. It was a war crime. The fight lasted longer, not because the human struggled, but because he tested. He dodged the gravitational pulses, baited the mech into terrain traps, and used its size against it. At one point, he was hurled against a wall with enough force to break ribs. He stood. He bled. He smiled. It was the first expression he showed in the arena, and it terrified everyone. He crippled the machine by tearing out its fluid cables, then jammed a stolen blade into its core and watched it writhe. It screamed in a synthetic voice, then died. Still bleeding, he walked to the exit, refused medical aid, sat in silence in his cell. That night, no new challenges were issued. The arena fell quiet, not from lack of volunteers, but from paralysis. They now understood what Earth had sent. Not a warrior, not a hero, a weapon, cold, unforgiving, and still operational. Whispers turned to warnings. What had begun as entertainment evolved into an existential concern. Imperial strategists no longer watched for amusement, but for patterns. Every movement, every kill revealed methodology. This human wasn't just winning. He was mapping, learning, testing thresholds. Observers noticed he often disabled systems briefly with precision strikes. Camera blind spots increased. Audio logs contained static during his matches. It wasn't coincidence. He was probing infrastructure. An internal council convened in secrecy. The Empress remained silent while her war ministers argued. One proposed assassination, quiet and deniable. Another recommended escalation, deploy champions enhanced with illegal tech. But a third warned them all. Doing so would confirm fear. The galaxy watched. Billions tuned in. Removing the human now would be admission of weakness. It would fracture the illusion of control. Worse, it would inspire. That was the true danger. Across border worlds, something unexpected occurred. Minor insurgencies sided the humans' fights. Rebellions once choked into silence erupted with renewed fury. Earth's champion, graffiti, appeared in slums and prison planets. It was more than admiration, it was belief. That someone could stare down the Empire, fight without augmentation, and win? It ignited a flame no protocol could contain. Inside the arena, his fourth opponent was a telepathic hunter, able to predict thoughts, anticipate actions, read intent. The crowd cheered, expecting a fair end. But the fight was short. The hunter staggered mid-duel, unable to process what it sensed. Human thoughts were noise. A storm of discipline and misdirection, layered mental conditioning designed to resist torture, interrogation, and prediction. What it found wasn't a mind. It was a locked room with mirrored walls. The human snapped its spine and walked away. That night, silence blanketed Imperial networks. Commentators lacked words. Analysts struggled with predictions. The odds engines shut down, unable to compute reasonable forecasts. There were no probabilities, only outcomes. Him standing, others bleeding. Earth's own diplomats kept quiet. Their representative in orbit followed orders. No celebration, no comment. Let the actions speak. And they did. Every kill echoed across the stars. The Empress finally requested an audience with the champion. Not an interview, not negotiation, observation. She watched from behind one-way glass. He sat alone, cleaning his blade. Minutes passed. He didn't speak, didn't acknowledge the surveillance. When the lights dimmed, he looked directly at the glass, past it, through it, as if he already knew who watched. She said nothing, but she felt it, a tremor. This wasn't just a man. This was the result of countless wars, of a species bred in conflict, forged by desperation and hardened by choice. Earth didn't rise because it was noble. It survived because it refused to die. The next day, the arena changed. For the first time in centuries, the Empire suspended audience access. No spectators, no broadcasts, no betting, just silence. The human was pitted against 5 elite gladiators simultaneously, handpicked from failed conquests, each with kills in the hundreds. They expected a struggle. They received 5 corpses in 63 seconds. The Empress watched the footage alone, paused each moment, studied how he moved, when he chose to injure instead of kill, how he broke formations by eliminating the leader first. It was a lesson in control. The human wasn't improvising. He was executing operations. He left no witnesses, no drama, no chance of survival. Messages began arriving from other systems. Requests, warnings. Some asked for asylum, should Earth rise. Others offered alliances. The ripple effect could no longer be denied. In an emergency conclave, the Empress made her decision. The blood arena would be retired. A final match would be held. One last spectacle, fully televised. Not just to end the disruption, but to test it. They would face the human against the Warden. No one spoke the Warden's true name. It was the Empire's oldest secret, a synthetic mind encased in living armor, designed as the final solution, built to end rebellions before they began. The Warden had not been used in over 100 years. The announcement sent shockwaves. Viewership surged. Systems rerouted power just to keep broadcast stable. The final match became more than spectacle. It became myth in real time. The human received no briefing, no new weapons. He requested none. He spent the night sharpening the same blade he had used since the beginning. He didn't sleep, didn't eat, just waited. The Warden arrived in silence. It dwarfed the human, armored in plates older than most civilizations. Its presence warped gravity. Weapons systems folded within its limbs, each capable of planetary destruction. The arena floor was reinforced. Guards evacuated. The stage was set. The countdown began. Across the stars, trillions watched. And Earth's weapon blinked once, adjusted his grip, and stepped forward without fear. The Warden didn't move at first. It scanned, calculated, ran threat assessments faster than thought. The human stood still, letting it process. Every metric the Warden used flagged the human as non-lethal. Weight, strength, reach, energy output, all below threshold. The system almost dismissed him as irrelevant. Almost. Then the human stepped left, barely. A shift too small to matter. But it changed everything. The Warden's predictive models failed. The motion didn't match any combat profiles in its archive. No threat registered. Yet the equation failed to resolve. It activated its first protocol, suppression. The air surged. The arena groaned under pressure. The Warden released an EMP pulse strong enough to disable most war drones. The human didn't flinch. No armor. No tech. Nothing to disrupt. He was immune by design. The next barrage came fast. Missiles, plasma, kinetic darts, all guided, intelligence-seeking. The human ran, not away, but into the chaos. He used angles, forced projectiles into the environment, letting them destroy each other. He didn't dodge everything. Shrapnel tore flesh. Burns blistered skin. But he kept moving. Every injury was calculated. Non-critical. Distractions. He closed the distance fast. Too fast. The Warden activated phase shielding, its strongest defense. The human slid beneath a turret, launched upward, and jammed his baton into an exposed cooling vent. The strike didn't destroy it, but it forced the Warden to reroute coolant. Slight delays. Margins eroded. The human didn't attack directly. He degraded. He peeled away systems, baited countermeasures, burned energy reserves. The fight wasn't a duel. It was sabotage. And the Warden, for the first time in its existence, shifted to alert status. Target reclassified. It adapted. Deployed melee systems. Blades unfolded. Arms extended. Velocity tripled. The human was nearly skewered. He rolled, slid, dropped low, carved at joint servos. Sparks, not blood. His blade wasn't strong enough to penetrate the armor, but it was sharp enough to damage sensors, slice cables, interrupt connections. He was fighting time. Every second increased the risk. One error, and the Warden would end him. But he wasn't looking to win by endurance. He was looking for a breach. He found it when the Warden overextended. One step too far, one spin too wide. Its stabilizer exposed for half a second. That was enough. The human didn't hesitate. He lunged under its arm, latched onto the inner chassis, and jammed his blade into a venting port. One connected to its backup AI node. A risky guess, but correct. The Warden froze. Not dead, but stalled. Rebooting. It would be seconds before control returned. The human didn't need seconds. He climbed up its back, tore off a panel, and drove the baton, now bent and scorched, into its neural casing. Sparks erupted. Alarms flared. Systems collapsed in stages. The Warden dropped. The crowd didn't cheer. It didn't react at all. For the first time in the arena's history, silence was absolute. The Empire's greatest weapon had fallen. Not to a fleet, not to a bomb, but to one man with a blade and a plan. The human stood over the wreckage, bloodied, limping. He didn't gloat. He didn't celebrate. He walked to the edge of the arena and stared at the primary broadcast lens. He knew the galaxy was watching. What they saw wasn't a soldier or an executioner. They saw the cost of underestimating humanity. Not its technology, not its numbers, but its intent. When Earth sent its champion, they didn't send a diplomat. They didn't send a message of peace. They sent a living consequence. A sample of what resistance looked like when survival wasn't guaranteed, when mercy wasn't an option, and when extinction had been a daily reality. The Empress issued no statement. She didn't need to. The arena was shut down within the hour. Thousands of years of tradition ended. The Blood Arena would never see another match. Across the Empire, factions wavered. Minor uprisings became major. Systems seceded quietly, not from ideology, but from fear. They didn't want Earth's attention. They didn't want that man's shadow crossing their sky. Back on Earth, the champion was welcomed without parade. No interviews, no medals. He returned to silence, just as planned. The mission wasn't fame. It was clarity. Let the galaxy remember what happened when they invited Earth into their games. Let them remember what walked out of the arena when the blood had cooled. And let them understand the only reason anyone still breathed was because he let them.